So over the last couple weeks, you guys have been hearing from me talking about how everything in the US has essentially changed around crypto. And this is definitely true. I don't think that you guys need to take it from my point of view. You could easily see some of the headline articles that have been coming out over the last couple weeks regarding crypto in the US. I mean, it feels as though we have hit that point in time where the US is finally serious about becoming a crypto hub. And why wouldn't they be serious about that? While we do see the entire world aligning essentially with crypto and crypto adoption, it makes sense for the US to finally get their act together and say, that's it. We need to make sure that we are behind this. We need to make sure that we are a leader with this because this is going to be the next big revolution and probably the last one for the next roughly 50, 100 plus years, right? Because again, if we think about what is the next big thing, well, you could argue AI, sure, but AI also needs blockchain, it needs crypto. So this is probably going to be the last major step forward for the next 50 to 100 years. But with that being said, let's actually talk about a lot of things happening right now around this space, specifically regarding Ripple and XRP, because we did get confirmation from Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse about what's happening right now. And hey, it's pretty big, especially when it comes to XRP. So welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick. For those that are new to the channel, hopefully by the end of this video, you do become a subscriber. So Eleanor Terrett put a post over on X, and this is actually a pretty significant one because we actually have here scoop. With digital assets becoming a top priority for regulators, the SEC, Gov, and CFTC are currently discussing ways in which they can effectively collaborate on crypto regulation. Fox Business has learned. One idea is to reinstate the charter for the CFTC SEC Joint Advisory Committee, which was established in 2010 to provide a vehicle for discussion on emerging regulatory issues that affected both agencies. The committee has been inactive since 2014. Acting chair CFTC Caroline D. Pam, which by the way, if you guys do know, this is the same acting chair that met with Brad Garlinghouse and toured Ripple in San Francisco. She called to reform the advisory committee last year, calling it a strong signal of a new collaborative and cooperative U.S. regulatory approach to digital assets. So this is very exciting because if this does happen, I do think that we are about to witness some very big changes happening within the U.S. around the regulatory side. Now, also, mind you, that the CFTC is already confirmed to be working with Ripple. We also know, like I said, that Caroline did meet with Ripple and toured the Ripple headquarters office. So it definitely makes a lot of sense to assume that if this did happen, that the case against Ripple will most likely be completely dropped and thrown out. So that would be a very big plus one. So we have to wait and see what happens here. We're going to pay a lot of attention to what happens here because this could be a big move. Now, on top of this, we also have over here from the Financial Services GOP, in case you missed it, the Digital Assets Subcommittee chaired by Rep. Brian Steele held its first hearing examining several bills and discussion drafts to cement U.S. leadership in the digital asset space. Guys, we are now witnessing some pretty big moves happening around the crypto and digital asset space. On top of this, from Congress's website, we have a golden age of digital assets charting a path forward. Guys, it doesn't get any more bullish than this. When we think about what's going on here, digital assets are now a big priority in the US. We are about to witness the major players like Congress, the SEC, the CFTC, and even the actual presidential admin themselves pushing crypto forward in the US in a big way, which will also lead into the global acceleration of digital asset adoption, regulatory movement, and ultimately the integration of this technology into the global system. Guys, we are witnessing some very substantial plays happening here. But on top of this, I want to take you guys over here to this announcement from Brad Garlinghouse, which we have here. Walked away from an action-packed day in DC yesterday with the feeling that there is finally an incredible opportunity to advance meaningful bipartisan legislation that establishes clear, constructive, and pro-innovation regulatory frameworks for crypto. And by the way, he did meet with Brian Steele. This is huge. And by the way, look at all of the meetings that Ripple had over the last couple weeks. Ripple has embedded themselves in the US government in a big way, meeting with some of the highest ranking individuals here. I mean, it's crazy to see these images in this collage thanks to XRP drops. It really shows you how much weight is being moved here by Ripple. They are a big player. They have confirmed and solidified themselves as a very substantial player in the US market. Now, on top of that, we do hear from Jack McDonald, who is the CEO of Standard Custody, also SVP stablecoins at Ripple. 2025 will be a defining year for crypto adoption and policy. On March 26th, that he'll be at Digital Chambers DC Blockchain Summit in Washington, D.C., discussing stablecoin adoption, including Ripple's RLUSD. Looking forward to the important conversations ahead. This is going to be a big summit, so definitely add this one to the calendar. I wanted to bring this up because, yeah, 2025 is becoming a very significant year. And also, it takes me back to this post from Brad Garlinghouse in the beginning of January, where he did say that 2025 is here and the Trump bull market is real. For Ripple, this is even more personal after Gensler's SEC effectively froze our business opportunities here at home for years. The optimism is obvious and very deserved. Now, I want to bring this post back up, not to say like, hey, guess what? Like Brad Garlinghouse, the Ripple CEO, right? Confirmed everything. No, we're going to get to that here in 1 second. I want to focus here on how much growth Ripple did see after the election. It was very significant from the amount of hirings, from the amount of, deals that they signed. We know that the Trump effect is here in a big way. And even Brad Garlinghouse called it the Trump effect. Now, I bring this up because of this post here from Subjective Views. Big shout to Subjective Views. There was recently a big event where Brad Garlinghouse was there, and we have listened closely to Brad Garlinghouse's words carefully. I've already experienced personally since the election, the outreach, the engagement with the people coming into office. Check this out.
Right. And as for Gary Gensler's legacy, this kind of raft of cases against yourselves, against Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, and the rest, what do you expect to happen to those cases in the weeks and the months after Gensler leaves his seat?
Gensler likes to go out and talk about how they've won lots of cases. The reality is they've settled lots of cases because they're bullies, and there's very few people that can stand up to the bully of the United States government. There have been a handful, including Coinbase, and certainly including Ripple, who've stood up and have demonstrated that they have acted outside of what the law has said. And it's frustrating to not be able to have worked constructively and said, hey, look, is there gray area? Does the Howey test work here? Does a test from 1946, I think it was 46, 48, somewhere around there, does it make sense? I have already experienced personally, since the election, the outreach, the engagement with the people coming into office is very real, and they're trying to figure out, hey, let's figure out how to make this work. I think we will see a market structure bill in the United States. When I say market structure, for some people, that'll be, it's FIT 21 was the one that made the most progress. Mm-hmm. I think some derivative of FIT 21 will pass in the first 6 months. I think there'll be executive orders on day one around everything from SAB 121 to some of the choke point 2.0 stuff. I think it will happen quickly in many ways.
You really think day one? You think that?
I think day one there will be crypto-related executive orders.
Okay,
for sure.
Now, on top of this, right, if we go over to this video, we have Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse talking about the Trump effect. Strap in for a pro-crypto administration in 2025.
Richard, Brad, maybe I'll come to you. We've heard a little bit already today about the Trump factor, but I think everyone here would be interested in your perspective in the context of this discussion around the regulatory landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, I wonder whether you could just talk to us briefly about kind of what the full implications are of a transition to ostensibly a pro-crypto administration in the US.
Yeah. Well, look, I violently agree with something Richard said, which is, on one hand, the US GDP is about 22% of global GDP. So there's 78% that, in a lot of those jurisdictions have already been very pro-crypto. But I do also believe that the US has had an outsized impact and kind of just a negative influence, which has been super frustrating. And I think the Trump effect, I actually think is so far still underestimated. And now I always get nervous, and I heard somebody talking yesterday, and they're like, expectations are very high. And when expectations are high, I think more about downside than upside. But I think when the largest economy in the world is, I think, going to shift significantly, and I think there is going to be a Trump effect domestically, but the pun intended ripple effect of that outside the United States, I think, is going to be significant also, where it's just the U.S. has an outsized influence. And look, I think we are continuing to see, with only 4 or 5 days left of this administration, that Gary Gensler has not been acting in good faith. It has been, and I was talking to some people in the audience, and it would be nice to see some accountability at some point on some of these things. I don't think we will. I think people move on, and to some degree, that's okay. We're going to be in a better place. But I think there's going to be renewed investment in the United States. I think you're going to see more, one of the key topics we're talking about is just unlocking the next 10 years when the largest economy in the world and the institutions there feel handcuffs off. I mean, the business for Ripple in the United States has been frozen for 4 years. They filed a lawsuit in December 2020, and for the last 4 years, our ability to do business in the United States in terms of our signing institutions to use our technologies, it's basically been locked out.
Right.
And that's going to change.
And am I right in thinking that Ripple is already pushing back into the US?
Yeah,
pretty much as soon as the election result came in.
Yeah, beginning really in kind of the second half of 2020, most of our hiring was non-US. Last year, I think non-US hiring was like 78% at the company. Now, that's partly you follow where your customers are. Our business has 95% of our customers are non-US. I'm hopeful that, I've publicly shared that in the 6 weeks after the election, we signed more contracts in the United States than we had in the previous 6 months. So you're seeing, that's even before they've taken office, right? And so I think as we start to see the people that Trump has appointed take seat, affect change, I think we may have underestimated how those headwinds that we've all experienced are going to shift to tailwinds, and I'm very optimistic about what it's going to look like.
Right.
Now, on top of this, one last clip is large institutions are starting to engage with XRP.
We have a question from Stefan Balker. Brad, do you have any clues to why XRP is outracing all of the top coins in the last 8 to 10 weeks?
I mean, I feel like I answered that question already, and that it's kind of, I think you had a U.S. regulator that was, had their knee on the neck of the industry. That came off, and so the U.S., XRP included a number of U.S. focused technologies that obviously are global, but have been attacked in the U.S. because it's easier for the U.S. government to go after U.S. companies. So that's what has happened. Look, it's hard to predict how these things play out, but has there been U.S. buying? Yes. I mean, look, even today, I'll leave these unnamed, but large institutions, even from derivatives to other things that haven't played around XRP because of the U.S. SEC are now like, oh, now we're going to engage. And so that creates momentum for the XRP ecosystem, which I think is good, and we'll see how it plays out.
Okay. We have a question from
So yeah, listen, as we really start to see what's happening here, these 3 clips are from earlier discussions at a conference, but all of this is happening right now. The Trump effect is here in a big, big way. And on top of that, we are starting to see Ripple expanding rapidly, and they already have a lot of meetings so far with this admin, with key players tied to this admin, and it feels as if Ripple and also XRP are about to get pushed forward in a massive way in the US. And when I say that, I mean, I do believe that the big banks are about to witness a big shift in their clients, their customers, wanting to see XRP offered on their banking apps. I do think that banks themselves are going to push XRP forward as well, because we've already heard from Bank of America, for example, on how they want to utilize XRP. So it makes sense for them to adopt and utilize and even offer XRP services. And I think that once we do see a big bank like Bank of America, for example, push something like that forward, almost every single bank is also going to fall in line with that. But it's not just about the big banks, right? It's not just about the big banks. It's also about the big players wanting to tokenize or wanting to utilize a stablecoin or even adopt a stablecoin. And also pushing forward the US digital asset market, because we know that Congress, we know the big players are already here wanting to advance digital assets within the US. And it makes so much sense for them to tap into Ripple, an established blockchain-based, crypto company that's been expanding their name and their reach and their presence for well over a decade in and around the fintech and digital asset space. Ripple is a giant, and it makes sense for the US to, start to adopt them, utilize their tech, because again, it just makes sense if they want to become a crypto hub. And we already know that, Brad has personally engaged with people from this office. So this is a very big statement. And with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on for some more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord down in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.